In this video we're going to look at what is fair wear and tear. So when your car comes to the end of its lease agreement or finance arrangement and you return the car potentially to the finance company, what do they class as fair wear and tear? Why is it important and why do you need to get any damage that falls outside of that corrected before the car goes back? Keep watching. Okay guys, so I've had a request, but despite that I'm still here making videos for you. They don't get any better, I'm afraid. Bear with me. Right, so fair wear and tear. There's a BVRLA guide to fair wear and tear, and you're generally sent that with your finance agreement, or it will come to you just before your finance agreement ends. They'll send you a hard copy of it generally, or a link to an online resource for it. I'm not going to give you a link to it. Literally just Google BVRLA Fair Wear and Tear Guide and you'll find it easy as pie. There are hundreds of them available online. I don't want to give you a link because I think it's something that will change as time goes on, and it's best to just always Google the current one rather than me give you a link to something that at the time you're watching this video might be 2 or 3 years old. So we'll go through the guide in a second, but essentially it tells you the damage that you're allowed to have on a car as fair wear and tear. So sort of superficial damage that they just kind of see as coming with just general use of the car. So you haven't dented it or bashed it into somebody or something like that, but just tiny little things that happen just with the normal use of a car. Just before we get too into the content, can I just remind you to give the video a thumbs up because it helps massively. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please do. I do lots and lots of car content on here, lots of stuff about car leasing, car finance, used cars, all that kind of stuff, and also a bit of financial stuff along the way. Please follow me on Twitter at NotAGuru3, and if you're really lovely, there's a link in the description you can go to and you can buy me a coffee. Thanks. This is the BVRLA guide. It's the BVRLA Fair Wear and Tear Guide, incorporating the BVRLA Fair Wear and Tear standard. So the finance company should abide by this, and it's worth you really reading this through and understanding it a good kind of 3 months before your car goes back, just so that you can get anything corrected that needs to be corrected before it goes back. We'll talk about the importance of that shortly. Appraisal tips for drivers before returning a lease vehicle. Carry out an appraisal of the vehicle 10 to 12 weeks before the vehicle is due for return. This will allow you to arrange to have any damage rectified and any missing items replaced. As I said before, I can't recommend that highly enough. I do it slightly before that in case anything's particularly difficult for any reason, but it's well worth doing it well in advance of the car going back. Before appraising the vehicle, make sure that it's been washed and is thoroughly clean, but remember to allow time for it to dry. Water on the paint mark can mask faults. That's important as well. On the day they collect the vehicle, you want it to be really clean, but you want it to be dry. If it's wet, they'll say, oh, it was not in a state that we could properly inspect it, which gives them license to find problems once it goes back. Choose time and place with good light. This is how a leasing company will examine your vehicle. Appraisals carried out in poor light invariably miss some faults. Check the terms of your contract for the information on the return standard required, and consult with your leasing company or finance house if you're in any doubt. They almost all will adhere to this guide, okay? Walk around the vehicle, examine closely each panel, including the roof, bonnet, doors and body for significant damage. Observe whether light is reflected differently from any dents and scratches. A really important thing when you're looking for dents is that you don't just look at it head on. You need to look from different angles, side to side, up and down, move it around, and really spend some time looking. When they appraise your vehicle, they will probably spend 10-15 minutes just looking on the panels of the car. So you need to be doing the same. Crouch or kneel down at the front and rear of the vehicle and look along each side. This will help you see any scratches and dents that may otherwise be difficult to spot. Inspect lamps, lenses, windows, mirrors for chips, cracks and holes. Check the tyres, including the spare, for damage. Check that the wear on the tread across each tyre is even. So with that, it doesn't just mean the tread of the tyre. You need to look for even wear. You need to make sure they're legal, which is what, I can't remember how many mil it is. Is it 1.6 mil for a legal tyre? But check that out. Make sure they're legal. Make sure the wear is even. And also look at the sidewalls of the tyres. Make sure it's not cracked or anything, or you've taken a wedge out where you've You've maybe curbed the alloy and you've taken a little chunk out of the tyre. That's not legal. So you would need to change that tyre before it goes back. Inspect wheels, wheel rims, wheel hubs and spokes for scratches, rust and corrosion. The main thing for your wheels is going to be if you've curbed it. Clean and valet the interior. I always suggest you go for a decent valet on it. Even if you go to, you know, the hand car wash at the end of your street kind of thing. Just get the top one you can afford and go with that. You want it to be really thoroughly clean when it goes back, otherwise they'll say, you know, it was dirty, we couldn't check it out properly, blah blah blah. Check upholstered areas for odours, tears, burns, stains and wear. Inspect all controls, including audio equipment and accessories. They should be present and fully functional. It's important to appraise the vehicle as honestly as you can. Be objective and ask a friend or colleague to help you. That's massively important. Don't think, well, that'll be all right, because I can assure you that the assessor that comes will be very objective when they're assessing it. You know, there should be no grey areas after reading this guide. Range of repair to areas of damage, replacing missing equipment and accessories. So like if you've taken the parcel shelf out and you've lost that, get another one. Go to a scrapyard, go on eBay, whatever you need to do, get another one. If you send the car back without it, they will charge you a lot of money. Ensuring any work's done to a professional standard by a repairer who can provide a transferable warranty for the work. Advice for drivers on the day the vehicle's returned. Again, you want it to be absolutely as clean as possible. Make sure you've taken any CDs out, SD cards, glasses, sunglasses, anything like that. Take your house keys off your key fob. Point out any damage that you know of that you haven't been able to repair, because it's just easier than them discovering it. And yeah, really make sure it's thoroughly clean inside and out and dry. Really important that it's dry. Okay, then end of lease charges are where they'll come through and charge you for damage that you haven't had repaired and is beyond the fair wear and tear guide, beyond what they allow you to have in this. As a code of conduct and a complaints procedure and a dispute resolution team should you need to go down that road. I never have, by the way. Okay, so we're going to cut to page 12. This is the kind of key stuff. So this is telling you really the standard, what they expect from you. So you should have the V5 registration document where appropriate. If you lease a car and possibly on a PCP, you won't have the V5 because you don't own it. You're kind of leasing it. MOT receipt where appropriate. So the MOT document if you've had to get the car MOT'd. If you're doing a lease or you've got a car that's less than 3 years old, and it's going back before its third birthday, you won't need to MOT it. Operation manual, service record booklet. So basically the little folder and all the books that come with the car, that all needs to be there. Any other documents relating to the vehicle and its equipment. And remember the keys, you should have both sets of keys. That's really important. They will charge you a lot of money if you're missing a key. So go and look for that now and make sure you know where the spare is, because we've had it a couple of times where we spent like hours the night before it goes back trying to find the spare, and it's just stress you don't need in your life. So go and look for it now. So this is what you can get away with as fair wear and tear. Okay, now it's actually fairly generous, I think, more generous than a lot of people think, but you need to be aware of it, and if there's anything that's borderline, I would suggest you deal with it. And don't leave it to, you know, someone's opinion on the day. I think if it's a borderline issue, just go and get it dealt with. But it's really important that you read this thoroughly and properly understand it. So there should be no rust, corrosion or discoloration on any painted area, including painted bumpers, body mouldings and mirrors. Repaired chips, scratches and dents are acceptable provided the work's completed to a professional standard by repairers who can provide full warranty on their work. Obvious evidence of poor repair, such as flaking paint, preparation marks, paint contamination, ripple finish or poorly matched paint is not acceptable. So if you do get repairs done, by all means use a smart repairer or someone, but they have to do a really good job, a very good job. So make sure that you're happy with the quality of their work when it's finished, because if you're not happy, I guarantee the inspector won't be happy. So chips, there's a little guide here which is actually really useful. So a 3mm chip, so tiny little stone chip basically. Chips of 3mm or less in diameter are acceptable provided they're not rusted. Maximum of 4 chips on any panel, 6 chips per door edge, and 8 chips on any forward-facing panel is permitted. So like your bonnet of your car is quite often going to have a lot of chips on, maybe the front bumper. 8 chips per panel on the front bumper and bonnet, for example. But the others, you're allowed 4 chips, but they must be very, very small and not rusted. If not, you can get those touched in, and it won't cost you a lot of money, especially if you've got someone coming out to do something else on the car. Dents of 15mm or less in diameter are acceptable, provided there are no more than 2 per panel and the paint surface is not broken. Chips within dents are not acceptable. So sometimes you'll get a tiny little dent, won't you? Just a, like tip of your finger kind of dent in a door or something, maybe where someone's clanged it, or I don't know, or a stone's hit it as you've been going up the road. That's fine. I mean, it's very small, 15mm, as long as there's not a chip in the middle of it. So if a stone has hit it and just pushed the panel in by a tiny amount, that's fine. If it's also taken a bit of paint out, you need to get it dealt with. Dents on the roof or swage line of any panel are not acceptable. It speaks for itself. Surface scratches of 25mm or less, or where the primer or bare metal is not showing, are acceptable, provided they can be polished out. A maximum of 4 surface scratches on any one panel is acceptable. So a place for look for these especially are the corners of your bumpers, where you get scuffs, and the other place is around the door handles, because you got a ring on or something, you go and stick your hand in. Particularly ladies with rings with maybe large stones in, unlike my wife, because I'm cheap. But yeah, you tend to get them round the little indent behind the door handle. You get lots and lots of scratches, and most of them can be polished out. And again, it won't cost you a lot to get them polished out, or even to have a go yourself with some T-cut or something. Just be a little bit careful. You don't want to go too crazy with it, because you can end up causing more damage. But you can really reduce those and get rid of quite a lot of them. Paintwork, vehicle body, bumpers and trim continued. Unpainted mouldings and wheel trims. Scuffs and scratches of 25mm or less are acceptable, provided the moulding or trim's not broken, cracked or deformed. So these would be like your black plastic bumpers, or those bits of black plastic or grey plastic that you often get around the bottom of doors and things like that. Badges, emblems, labels, logos, advertising livery applied by the customer to the bodywork or glass of the vehicle should be removed before returning the vehicle. Removing badges, emblems, logos and livery must be done professionally, and the vehicle returned to its original colour and condition unless otherwise agreed. So if you've had the car wrapped with like a company logo, or you've got, I don't know, your phone number and website address or something on the back window, whatever it may be, all that's got to be removed, and it has to look like it was never there. So if you've had something on a panel, say you've had a phone number down the side of the car, done with vinyl or something, that's been removed, and you can just about make it out because the paint's slightly faded. They will have you for that. So you would probably need to get the car machine polished just to bring the paint back up. To have a whole car machine polished, it's going to cost you a few £100. But if it's a small area, it won't be too bad at all. Soft and hard top convertibles. Convertible roofs must be fully operative and free from damage, rips and tears. Sorry, I'm trying to read this without my glasses because the light shines off my glasses and reflects into the camera. So I'm sort of reading like a 6-year-old. Sorry about that. The rear window must not be cracked or creased. Accessories originally supplied, e.g. wind deflectors, must be present and in good condition. Tow bars must only be fitted with approval from the leasing company. If fitted, a tow bar must be in good rust-free condition with all electrical connections that work properly. A ball cover must be in place. Okay, don't forget your ball cover, guys. Windows, glass, door mirrors and lamps. Panoramic roofs must be fully functioning. No chips, cracks or holes. Surface scratches are acceptable provided they can be polished out. A maximum of 4 surface scratches on the roof is acceptable. Windows and windscreens. Light scratching is acceptable provided it doesn't interfere with the driver's line of sight, and the heating elements and ADAS, the automated driver assistance system, still work properly. So with that, if you've had a replacement windscreen done, for example, you have to go in and have your ADAS recalibrated so that it's correctly reading the distance of a car in front of you. So that's very important that that's been done. A damage in excess of 10mm in the driver's line of vision or in excess of 40mm elsewhere in the area swept by the vehicle's wiper blades is not acceptable. Repaired chips are acceptable provided they're repaired to a professional standard and the work is warranted. I've actually got to do this on our tour round because I noticed a chip on it the other day. Usually your insurance company will do a chip for free, but if you have to have a replacement screen, you usually have to pay an excess on it. Windscreen wipers must be present, secured in good condition, so they can clear the windscreen and give the driver a clear view of the road ahead. The washer reservoir must have sufficient liquid. Right, this is an important one as well. The day before it goes back, just stick a jug of water into your washer reservoir or some screen wash or something. They do test the wipers, and if that's the moment the thing runs out of water, they'll charge you for it. And it's just such an easy one. Just do it. Same thing before a car goes for an MOT. Just fill the washer bottle up. Door mirrors, missing, cracked or damaged mirror glass and housing units are not acceptable. If adjustable and or heated door mirrors, they must work correctly. All lamps and lamp units must work. Minor scuff marks or scratches of 25mm or less are acceptable. Holes or cracks in the glass or plastic covers of lamp units are not acceptable. So there's the diagram for what they call the driver's line of vision. So it explains it all there for you. Tyres and wheel damage. All tyres must meet minimum UK legal requirements to comply with vehicle manufacturers' recommendations. There must be no damage to sign walls or tread. Evidence of uneven wear due to under or overinflation is not acceptable. The other thing with tyres is, unlike if you're changing tyres on your own vehicle, you would usually change them in pairs, wouldn't you? Like the two fronts you would change together, the two rears you would change together. You don't need to do that when you're sending one back, according to this guide. And the only thing is that they have to meet the size and speed rating for your vehicle. But they can be any brand and they just have to be legal. So if you send them back with 3mm of tread on each one, that's perfectly fine. You could have 4 different brands on the car if you wanted, as long as each tyre is legal and meets the size and speed rating for the car. Done. Dents on wheel rims, wheel trims are not acceptable. Right, so this is the main thing. This is one that lots of people have to have done when the car goes back. Scuffs up to 50mm on the total circumference of the wheel, rim and alloys are acceptable. Any damage to wheel spokes, wheel fascia or hub of the alloy is not acceptable. There should be no rust or corrosion on the alloy wheels. If you've got a damaged alloy and it's more than what it says there, it's not the end of the world. There are lots and lots of wheel refurbishment companies around. There's one sort of franchise chain that I know of called the Wheel Specialist, but there are loads of them around. There are guys that will come out and do it on your driveway, and there are others where you take the car in somewhere. It can cost anything from, say, £50 to £100 a corner to get wheels refurbed, and they look mint when they're done generally, absolutely mint. If you've got diamond cut wheels, so the ones where you're generally painted and then a very shiny surface, they can cost a lot more because they have to be kind of ground back on a machine and then repolished and everything, and they can be a lot more expensive. So bear that in mind. Then mechanical condition, everything's got to be in good working order. It needs to be completely roadworthy. You can't have any like warning lights popping up or anything like that. If the car's over 3 years old, it's got to have an MOT on it. Your brakes need to be in good nick. You know, your gearbox has got to be in good nick. All the rest of it. The underside of the vehicle, any impact damage to the vehicle's underside is not acceptable. Cats not working because of obvious damage, not acceptable. And then the interior's got to be clean, no smell, no burns, no scratches, no tears, no dents, no staining. The thing about smell, sometimes you might get a damp smell in your car, even though it's not damp. That's often a sign that your air conditioning system needs a bit of a flush through. So get that checked out. That needs to be done professionally. It's not something you should attempt yourself. Sometimes people get a damp smell and think, where's that coming from? Carpet should not have holes. All seats originally supplied must be present. Interior fittings such as seat belts, rear view mirrors, courtesy lights, sun visors, door bins, etc. must be present, intact and free of damage. Door aperture, boot liner and luggage area. Scratches on tread seals and seals that reflect normal use are acceptable. Torn or split floor coverings, damaged surrounding trim panels are not acceptable. Accessories such as parcel shelves, load covers, boot liners, restraining straps and nets must be returned with the vehicle. Again, a lot of people take their parcel shelf out, stick it in the loft, forget to send it back with the car. They will charge you. And then in-car entertainment equipment, phones, navigation systems, everything needs to be there. So if it runs off an SD card, you know, the sat-nav runs off an SD card, it needs to be in there. And basically everything that came with the car needs to go back with the car. And then there's a little glossary of terms there for you. Now, I'm sure there are some of you watching this that will have seen that and have gone into a mad state of panic. And please don't, because actually what they allow as fair wear and tear is really quite generous. And as long as you read that guide and understand it and deal with everything as you should, you'll have no issues when the car goes back. If you send the car back with damage on it that's outside of what they allow as fair wear and tear, you will get stung. They will charge you a lot of money to put things right. Yeah, don't panic about it. Just be well informed. Give yourself enough time to get anything dealt with and go deal with it. I'm fully expecting on our car, bearing in mind it's a people carrier and we've got 2 young children and a dog, and my wife thinks if you go to the beach it's perfectly acceptable to bring about 1/3 of the sand back with you, and very rarely does the muddy dog get brushed down before she gets into the car. So that car's fairly abused, I have to say. Nothing like my own car. I treat my cars with a bit of respect. That one doesn't get a great deal of respect, I'm afraid. I'm fully expecting on that one that I know I've got windscreen chip. I know that there's a scratch on the bonnet where a cat sat on it or something, and I'm going to need to get that machine polished out. I've had a go at it myself and made it worse, so I'm going to get an adult to help with that one. And then the valet on it is going to cost a lot, just because every nook and cranny in that interior has probably got sand in it. We don't live too far from the beach, and there's just so much sand in there, and it rarely gets a properly good clean. So I'm probably expecting it to cost me about £150 when it goes back, just to get everything done. Now, when I go and do the inspection on it, which I'll take you out and we'll do a walk around on once it's had an initial clean, by the way. Once I do that inspection on it, it may come up that there's actually a couple of other bits that I hadn't noticed need to get done also. So yeah, maybe it will cost me another 150. Maybe it's 250 quid when it goes back. The point is, if I send it back as it is now, they're probably going to charge me for a respray of the front bonnet or for a machine polish at their rates. They're going to charge me a lot of money for a proper valet on it, and they're going to charge me money potentially for a few little scratches here and there that I'm sure there will be. So what I'm going to do for 150, 250 could end up costing me 1,500 if I just send it back as it is, or just think, well, I'll just wait for the guy to come, I'll just pay whatever it is. They can do it, it's their problem, not mine. That's fine if you take that approach. You can absolutely do that, but they can more or less charge you whatever they want, as long as they can sort of justify it. And they will have a scale of charges that they use for that kind of thing. For example, if it's a tyre goes back with a lump out of it, or it's not legal, it might be a tyre that you could buy for 70 quid. Their charge for replacing the tyre might be 400. That's what you have to pay. Don't panic about this, but read it and be really, really well informed, and act accordingly. There's kind of no excuse not to, unless you're happy to just pay a ton of money to get the thing back up together. But it's all quite simple stuff. It is explained in this in minute detail, and it could seem a bit daunting, but really it's not. So yeah, that's it really, guys. Any questions or anything, just ask me in the comments, or hit me up on Twitter, which is notaguru3, and yeah, I always come back to you with a response. So thanks very much.